Chapter 7. I flipped a handful of coins on the counter. Another. The gangly Kalishman behind the bar pushed the dirty water-colored hair out of his eyes and tallied the coins with a sour expression. Slowly, his disagreeable stare lifted. "We don't serve your kind in here," he said, taking the coins and slipping them in his pocket. "You girls have no trouble serving me," I reminded him. "My girls have no wits!" "I've been here before. I've had your ale, and your girls. I remember." His pointed, scruffy jaw went tight. "And I remember how my place looked after you left." "Your place is a shithole," I said plainly, kicking at the dirt floor. "But I paid for those damages both times." "I'm thinking this time you should pay in advance." My hand twitched. All night I'd been trying not to give in to my temper. Anger was too closely linked to casting for a Shinree soldier, and I was barely ignoring the urge as it was. Even so, I almost hit him and got it over with. But I lost interest as a woman's arm came around the barkeep's bony shoulder. She moved out from behind him and shamelessly draped her body over his. Whispering in his ear, she said, "I'll take care of this one." He gave no argument. The barkeep slipped quietly away into the kitchen with an almost blank expression, leaving the woman to size me up with her pretty blue eyes. They were pale and bottomless, and gave her square face a pleasing, sultry quality. "What are you drinking, Shinree?" she asked. The answer was easy. "Whatever you're pouring." "In that case," give me a quick, frisky smile, the wine girl turned to the rows of shelves on the wall behind her. She reached up high for a lone black jug sitting at the top. "Ever heard of the Wandering Isles?" "Don't think so," I said, enjoying watching her move. Her hair was an avalanche of wide autumn curls. Her body was healthy, scantily dressed, and full of curves, and I liked the way her skirt lifted as she stretched. "It's a little group of islands just off the coast of Dorate." She glanced back. "Some say their spirits are the best ever made." Making contact with the bottle, she pulled it down, parted a set of lips that were perfect for kissing, and blew the dust off the label. "What do you say, Shinree?" Grinning out, she set the bottle down in front of me. "Are you brave enough to find out?" "Only if you're brave enough to join me." In reply, she popped the cork, and the man at the bar beside me slurred in a deep voice, "Your presence brains with it, a foul-odor witch." I turned slightly toward him. He was big for a Kalishman. He was also considerably drunker than I was. But that didn't make him wrong. "I bet it does," I said, sniffing at the remnants of swamp on my coat. "Maybe I wasn't clear," he said. "You stink." Teetering, the brute edged closer. The layer of ash caked on his hair and skin was thicker than the coating of grime on the tavern windows. "Blacksmith," I thought as he leaned in closer. "You don't belong here." "You're right in that," I agreed, surveying the room full of shadowy figures hunched over their mugs. Since none of them had given me anything on my elusive Shinree enemy, I should have left hours ago. Instead, I chanced staying, and feeling sorry for myself, hit the wine. I thought a mug or two might help. Now, after a few more than two, I could comfortably say that I felt worse than when I walked in. A cold sweat had my shirt clinging to my skin. Small earthquakes were traveling the length of my insides. My head was pounding. The only thing I'd found worthy of distracting me from my cravings for magic was the girl behind the bar. So I put my back to the unpleasant blacksmith and smiled at her. "Shall we?" I nodded at the jug. She put down 2 cups and began filling them. The liquid, as it came out, was dark with a pungent, spicy smell. I eyed it warily. "What's your name, girl?" I asked her. Her reply was an ornery grin. Selecting one of the cups, she saluted me with it, draining it, and her face immediately contorted in pain. She was coughing and laughing so hard I could barely understand when she wheezed out, "Ima." I wasn't sure yet about the drink, but I liked her. I dug in my pocket and put a few more coins on the counter. "You get many Shinree in here, Ima?" Still wincing, she cleared her throat. "Sometimes the nobles come in with their slaves looking for a discreet place to get their money's worth, if you know what I mean." "Not a slave." "I'm looking for someone off Canal. A man." "That's funny. I'm looking for a man, too." Ima leaned toward me over the bar, "And I think you'll do just fine." She inclined her body further in a direction, and the rounded collar of her bodice gaped invitingly. I caught the faint scent of lavender that clung to her red-brown hair as she plucked my drink off the counter. She held it to my mouth. "I hope you like it hot." With difficulty I raised my gaze from her overflowing breasts to her sensual eyes. I took the cup from her hand, and a sudden involuntary shudder of craving raced up my arm. He's tall, I said, tightening my grip. He was wearing a cloak. I know that doesn't help much, but he came in a while back looking to hire. Met with a woman, name of Roe. Ema scooted back off the counter to her side of the bar. With that slight distance, the scent of her vanished. Strangely, I found myself missing it. Roe's been here before, she replied, thinking, but not for some time. As far as your Shinree goes, healers don't come unless enough blood spills to get the magistrates involved. And oracles don't come unless you pay them, which we don't. To cite our great and wise owner, Ema deepened her voice and slowed it to a coarse drawl. Why in hell's name would I pay for some friggin' loud to learn this future when he'll be too drunk to remember it come morning? Slapping a hand on the jug between us, she lifted it high. This is all the entertainment these good-for-nothing, tight-fisted, lousy pricks need. Putting the bottle down, Ema ended her impression with a laugh. You're in the Wounded Owl, handsome. If you want oracles, you need to go uptown a bit. Nah, I think I'm good here. I tossed back the drink in my hand. It was like liquid fire. I was still trying to breathe when the blacksmith stumbled into me. I heard about you, he said. I didn't even glance at him. Don't suppose any of it was good. It was shit. Must be shit, he said, his words running over each other, since you look like just another ugly, spooky-eyed witch to me. Cowardly and cock-loving, too, I bet. He shoved his shoulder into mine. Prove me wrong. You really don't want me to do that, I told him. Let's say I do. Let's say I grab your head and slam it. He smacked his hand on the bar for effect. Until the cracks. What would you do then? Something you wouldn't like. Now, if you don't mind. I held my cup out to Ema. She refilled it, but her posture had changed. The light-hearted casualness of before was gone. She looked angry. Then she looked scared as the blacksmith shoved me again. This time he pushed me forward so hard I bumped into her, dropped my cup, and spilled my drink on us both. She lost her balance, and I had to grab her with one hand to keep her from falling, while my other gripped the edge of the counter, fingers digging into the wood as I fiercely struggled to reroute my anger. You okay? I said. She nodded, and I let her go. I let go of the bar, too, shaking the wet off my hand. I turned around, hoping to find a way to get rid of the blacksmith without it turning violent, and he hit me. Knocked once more into the bar, I rubbed my jaw as I righted myself. I spit a generous amount of blood on the floor, and the bastard scowled at it as if it wasn't enough, as if I should have been flat on my back, out cold with one hit. Are you in, Troy? He said then. I had to spit again before I could answer. Maybe you should have asked that before you hit me. The brute grunted, possibly in agreement, but he was too busy trying to stare me down to elaborate. He couldn't manage it, of course. My reputation regularly drew in aspiring challengers like flies, and I'd spent years perfecting the amount of unshakable belligerence it took to warn them off with a glance. Not to mention that too much ale swam in this one's veins for him to see straight. Still, I let him win. I had to. My nerves were jumping like hot embers from a fire, and the effort it took me to not put that bastard down had spasms running through me. So intense, I picked up the jug and took a long, desperate swig. Ema frowned at me. You don't look so good. The jug wobbled in my grip as I lowered it. It's nothing. Really? She put her hand on mine to stop it from shaking. You should get out of here before someone catches what you have. They can't. But she was right. I couldn't stay. The sickness and disorientation had finally reached the critical point. I had two choices now. Continue to deny my body what it yearned for, or give in. I didn't want to even consider the latter, but as long as another was in charge of my spells, it was futile to suffer through the pang of abstinence. Whatever gains I might make be undone at his whim, not to mention that physically I would be a mess. From here on, there was only one way to stay sharp. I had to alleviate my symptoms as they came on. I had to cast regularly and willingly, and I had to live with it. I had to let go of the years I'd spent honing my self-control, and fall back into old patterns, using secluded places to gorge myself, learning to get by on small bursts to avoid draining innocence. I had to accept that once more my life would be measured by how long I could have lasted between spells. I hated being that weak. Yet, I saw no way around it. Fucking witch! The blacksmith sirred, breathing his hot, stale wine breath in my face. Your kind drinks from the trough outside! Well, let me show you! He put a hand on my arm, and Ema gave him a grim look. She knew I was on the verge of doing very nasty things to him. Go, she urged me, but I didn't want to anymore. Just the idea of relief being a wish away had my heart racing and my mind shuffling through potential spells. If I can lure him outside, someplace deserted, no one else has to get hurt. Something fast and easy. I just need a little. No one would miss him, at least not until morning, and I'll be gone by then. Spittle hit my face as the man thundered, "The trough, witch! Now!" And with that, my patience was done. Suddenly my urges felt unjustified. The path ahead of me was clear. Prepared to cast, I spun and faced my tormentor full on. I threw off his hold. I glared deep into his soot-ridden eyes and found them narrowed and hard, full of an ignorant, all-consuming pride that sickened me. They were alive with nothing but hatred and cruelty, but they were still alive. When I was done, they would be glazed, empty, and accusing. His corpse would be curled up on the filthy cobblestones, gray and parched, dinner for the rats and the crows, empty, dead, like Rella. I tried to let it go, to shake off the memories. I tried not to see the countless bodies reflecting in the blacksmith's harsh stare, or Rella's former queen splayed out in the barren ground. But they wouldn't go away. She wouldn't go away. And the weight of what I was about to do, choosing a sacrifice, willfully planning a murder, nearly toppled me to the floor. God's what's happening to me. Next to me, Ema ran her hand up my arm. I'd been so self-absorbed I haven't even seen her come out from behind the bar. Her touch moved my face. She mouthed one word, "Come," and I wanted to, badly. Her stare was chock full of so much desire. It promised the kind of night I'd seen in a long time. "This way," she urged. She stepped toward the door. The coaxing in her stare deepened. I felt a pull to follow her, so intense that as Ema extended a hand to beckon me, an uncomfortable tightness pinched my chest. The longer I hesitated, the worse it got. In no way was it natural. Damn! I'd been cast on. Or she had. Either way, magic was inclining me toward the pretty barmaid. The question was why? What was my new friend from the swamps up to now? Disappointed I almost went with her anyway to see where she might take me. But the blacksmith shuffled in between us. "Move, girl!" he grunted. "You soil yourself staying so close to the garbage." I cringed as Ema laughed. "Am I supposed to soil myself with you instead? Let you stick your fat, grungy, soot-infested cock inside me? I don't think so." Jaw hard, the man raked his eyes over her. "Rumor says that Prince Gooden had the teeth pulled from the mouths of all his whores. I wonder what he'd pay if I did the job for you. And maybe remove that wicked ton of yours too, eh?" He reached for her skirt. I clamped a restraining hand on his arm. "I'm giving you one chance to leave. I suggest you take it." Sluggishly, his drink-addled gaze slid to mine. "I'm going to paint the walls with your blood, Shinree, and when I'm done, I'm going to teach her the difference between man and witch. Might take a while, though. Hours." He smirked. "Days, even." Balling his stained shirt in my hands, I jerked the man closer. "I tried hard not to kill you. I really did." I gave him a shove. He tumbled backwards, and his considerable weight pulled him down fast, along with a few chairs. I tossed one out of my way and straddled his chest. "You're right," I said, pressing a knee under his chin. "Teaching the difference between us could take a while." I drew back and punched him in the mouth. "Days, even." I punched him again. "Goddamn witch!" he howled. "I'll lock those fucking chains around your neck myself! You better make peace with whatever god you worship first, asshole, because if I don't kill you, Ray and Arcana will have your head on a pike." A muted smile curled his bloody lips, and his voice got real quiet. "What do I care of a dead Rellan king?" "Dead?" "That's right. You can't hide behind Queen Ryan's protection anymore. It died with him!" My heart sped up a little. "I don't believe you." He's dead all right, Shinree. He's dead! Like you." Laughing, the blacksmith's eyes flicked off mine. His head tilted forward in the barest traces of a nod. I had enough time to think. Ambush. Before a chorus of ringing metal erupted behind me.